Hello and welcome to Making Gains with me, Radzi, in association with Finnebrogues and Naked Bacon, the biggest revolution to happen to British breakfast in a generation, and the University of Derby, where they make it real. Now, today's guest is such a fascinating individual, such a successful human being in the form of an Olympic sport, and that Olympic sport is diving. He is a 3 times European champion, a 5 times Commonwealth Games gold medalist. He is an Olympic bronze medalist, silver medalist, and gold medalist. I'm talking about Jack Claught. Jack, welcome to Making Gains, sir.
Hello.
And mate, first things first, can we talk about a thing that's currently around your neck? Your Olympic medal.
Yeah. No, this is a special one. I've got my other ones right here as well.
Amazing, dude.
Wish you lovely introduction or everything. No, this one is very special to me.
And you just casually brought into frame your Olympic silver medalist, your Olympic gold medal. What do they actually mean to you, mate?
Do you know, looking at these ones are from 2016, and looking at these Olympic medals, they pinpoint a part of my life that was me on my rise in my career. You know, I'd only won a couple of different things here and there. And these were the first major medals that I'd really won. And I think they kind of start my career. So when I look at these, I think that was when I was a lot younger, a lot more inexperienced. And then we flash forward now to 2021, where I've got this Olympic bronze, and it may not be the color of the gold or silver, but for me, this one has been so much more hard work. When I look back at these, it was almost not easy, but so much less stressful than what this one was. And the hurdles I've had to overcome to get to this one have been mentally harder in comparison to these two. So they all mean different things, but for me, they're all very special.
Okay, so let's go back to Rio then. Rio, aka the green pool. I'm not sure if anyone remembers that, when the actual water was actually green. When you got off the plane and landed in Rio, what were your expectations?
Do you know what? It's weird because I just talked about how easy it was in comparison, but actually, if you go forward backwards 4 more years to London, I had a really bad Olympic Games. So my expectations were just trying not to make the same mistakes that I did in London. At the World Championships the year before, I'd got 2 bronze medals, which I was really happy with. At the time, I was only 20 years old. My expectations weren't to get these medals, really. I wanted to just try and do better than I did in 2012. However, when we started training and we were diving alongside the Chinese and the Russians, our main competition, I could see that, you know, we're in with a shot here. You know, we look good, we're strong, we're doing really good dives. We were actually doing the hardest dive in the world at the time, the first people in the entire world to compete together when we won the gold medal. So I was kind of looking around thinking, you know, we've got a shot at least a medal here, and maybe even more. And on the day it just panned out. We had that green pool. Some people freaked out about it. And me and Chris, I remember, we were just there like, yeah, you know, whatever. It is what it is. We'll deal with it and it'll be fine. And actually, it seemed to help us loads.
At what point did you think that you were in with a shout? Was it kind of during the official practice, as it were, or was it actually when you were competing?
Well, I mean, a bit of both. I mean, actually looking back on it now, the Russians were our main competition aside from China, and we'd beaten them at the Europeans, which they always win. It's their major event of the year, the Europeans. It's where all their funding comes from, and we beat them. So we felt like we'd already actually beaten them at the Olympic Games after beating them there mentally. And then it was just China. We were looking at China. We thought, you know, it's not the best pairing in the entire world. But obviously when you're diving, you don't want to think about, oh my God, I could win this. You want to be obviously concentrating on that's all that you can concentrate on and what you can change. However, it does creep into your mind a little bit. And especially after Tom and Dan won their bronze medal, and I got to hold an Olympic medal for the first time. Wow, this could be us in a couple of days. And yeah, that really helped me as well.
So when you and Sam are together, who literally calls the shots, in the sense of when you're on the platform, who's the one who gives the count for you to go?
Well, Chris, he was the one that did the countdown. So he would say ready and I would say yes.
It was Chris Mears, wasn't it? It wasn't Sam, it was Chris, yeah.
Yeah. Chris Mears was, he would say ready when he was ready to go, and I would confirm that I was ready to go, and then he would count, and then we'd walk down the board together, and that was it. but yeah, so that's changed in my current partnership. I am now the person that says, ready to go. It seems to be in diving, the more experienced person is the one that does the counting. However, it really doesn't matter, to be honest with you. It's just whoever feels comfortable and confident enough to be able to say that whilst having to concentrate on other things as well at the same time.
Is there a different feeling in terms of anxiety and nerves and everything else when you're with somebody else versus on your own?
I think it really depends on how strong the team is. When I was diving with Chris, we were best friends. We were living together. We'd cook together, train together. We pretty much did everything together, really. So we were almost like one. And, when you've got someone alongside you that's an amazing diver, an amazing athlete, an amazing friend, you don't feel that sense of nerves because you have so much trust and faith in your team, in the ability of everything that's going on. Plus, we had two fantastic coaches as well. So it was very hard to feel unconfident because of how much experience was around you and how much trust and faith was around you. Whereas I've had a lot of changes in my my life over the past 5 years since Rio. We have changed coaches. We've had a new partnership come in, and it kind of shakes everything up a little bit, and that takes a while to build on. So towards the start of my new synchro career with Dan in 2018, it wasn't quite as easy as it was when me and Chris started up. However, we worked on it really hard and we got some great results together. So it honestly depends on all the work that you put in outside of the sport, as well as the work you put in inside the sport.
Before we talk about things technically, just going back to London, because I think it's so easy to look at certain failures and say, we brush those to one side. But how tough was that to deal with a home Olympics where the eyes of the sporting world in this country were very much on diving, in the sense of you had a few faces, Tom Daly was one of them. So the eyes of the world are kind of on you, to then hear the atmosphere and to hear the ovation when they say your name. How did you deal with that, what you would describe as possibly an underachievement?
I deal with it really poorly. It's one of these things that it's not, I guess it's similar to trauma in a way. I had grief around the competition as well afterwards, because a home Olympic Games is something that happens only once in an athlete's career, if ever. And it was so special. And I was 17 years old, with 17,000 people watching in the London Aquatic Centre. And I remember looking up and they were all cheering for me, pretty much. 95% of them were British. And that was very overwhelming. And I can actually remember very little, because I think that my mind has just erased so many memories because it wasn't good. I can just remember, the only thing I can really remember about it was looking up to the crowd when they called out my name and this huge roar. And I thought, almost gulped and took a step back and thought, wow, I've never heard anything like that before. And when you're on a board that's 50 centimeters wide, bouncy board, and you're nervous with your legs and everything like that, and you've got 17,000 people cheering for you, and it's something so extraordinary, because in diving we have 300 to 500 people maximum watching us usually, and it's very, very surreal to be in that kind of situation. And I just didn't take it well. I did a terrible couple of dives, and then my final dive, I knew that I wasn't going to make the semi-final, so I threw my routine out the window. I didn't really listen to my coach. I kind of just thought, I got into the adolescent youth mindset of, I don't care, I'm just going to do what I want here. And I went up to the board and my knees buckled, so I put too much through my legs, and they didn't push me back up. I didn't complete my dive, and I just fell in, basically. That was it. So my Olympics was terrible.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, it was terrible leading up to there anyway. And then the final dive, the sixth dive, I failed the dive. And I do remember getting out and just crying instantly. And I ran off through a door that I wasn't allowed through. And everyone was telling me, you can't go through here. And I was like, I don't care. In my Speedos in this little corridor, just crying. I was so upset. But what I did learn from that was that even when things are going poorly, to never just give up on the process and the routine that I go through. And it took a long time to process, but I learned a tremendous amount from that. And, I blanked it out for a long time. I had a little bit of fear at competing at Olympic level as well. And I made myself watch performance from 2012 before I competed in 2016. So I could kind of, get over it and understand it, watch it, and process it from my eyes currently when I was 4 years older. And it took a while, but it seemed to work. Everything that I did seemed to help, and that's why I have these 2 medals here. I think I like to say that my failures from 2012 helped my success in 2016 and beyond.
Do you know what? I've had therapy, and one thing we spoke about in therapy was perception and projection. And if we take you in that moment when 17,000 people are cheering for you, it'd be very easy to perceive that as expectation, to perceive it as I now must get gold, otherwise they will be disappointed. And therefore, I'm projecting that perception onto the world or onto even possibly my own psyche, my brain. Whereas having just been at the Olympics and having seen a number of performances where in rowing, for example, there were 6 fourth place finishes. When you're gutted, you're not gutted as in you have let me down. As a fan, a spectator, all you feel is you want the best for that person. And because they happen to wear red, white, and blue and have a Union Jack, I might not even know that person's name, but I'll think, go on, mate. We're proud of you. You're representing us. And as long as you give it everything, people like you. But yet, when you're a teenager, mate, and you're stood there, and your first experience of that is, I just can't imagine how exposed and alone you must have felt at that time, where really what you needed was someone to put their arm around you, metaphorically, and to kind of say, right, this is going to be like nothing you've experienced before. Our aim is for you to get through 6 clean whatever, and that's it, rather than whatever it was that it turned into, because mate, that could have been almost post-traumatic stress for the rest of your life.
Yeah. No, it took a long while to heal from the wounds that London 2012 had left on me. And it's weird because what you talk about there is exactly how I felt. When I felt the roar of all those people, all I thought in my head is they expect me to do well. Yeah. And I had a little taste of success before that. We'd had a test event that was before the Olympic Games in the Olympic pool to make sure it could all run smoothly. And until the last dive, I was in bronze medal position at the age of, I was just turned 17 at this point. And I tried a new dive out. It didn't quite go as well as I'd hoped, but I was really still proud of myself. I think I finished 8th place in the end. But I was still proud of how I did. So leading into 2012, I had put this expectation on myself that weirdly, maybe I could get a medal potentially. And then when I heard that roar and that huge Team GB wave of cheering and clapping and everything that I just never heard before, it sounds exactly like what you were just saying there, that I perceived that they expected me to do well and expected me, and almost had confirmed my ideas and thoughts that I'd had in my head. And yeah, at 17 years old, that was hard. And then with how badly it went, I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to show my face anymore. Honestly, going to the pool the next day to go, and Chris Mears made the semi-final. We were both diving in individual, and he was my best friend then as well. And going to the pool to support him was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, because and honestly, I look back at myself now and I hate it. I had jealousy, I was bitter, I was angry, and I was embarrassed. And I think that it's so hard to deal with when you're that age, and I wasn't the best teenager either. And yeah, that was just a really, really difficult point in my life. But I feel like, I had a lot of work with a psychologist that we'd employed through British Diving. And that really helped me understand what happened, and to try and make that negative experience into a positive experience. But it was hard. It was really difficult.
Yeah, I bet it was, mate. And you mentioned sort of new skills that you've learned or trying out a new dive. What's the process of going from we've conceptually got an idea to then eventually executing it in the actual water itself? Because I've seen harnesses get used, and kind of like a cylinder where you're almost harnessed onto a cylinder which will be rotated for you to practice your opening timings and stuff.
Yeah. So we have I don't know. In diving, there's it's not like gymnastics where new skills are invented. Really, there's there's the different shapes. There's tuck, pike, and straight, and it's a different amount of somersaults and different amount of twists. How you do that skill doesn't really matter. If you end up doing 4.5 somersaults tucked, no matter how you really do it, it will always be a 4.5 somersault with tucked. Now, so people in gymnastics, if they do a half twist early and then a half twist out at the end, that's a different skill to if they did a half or a full twist at some point throughout the entire skill.
Right.
So that's what I was trying to get across with that. However, with these skills, usually as you progress through diving, you do start going through the basic trend of you start doing an extra somersault, and then you'll change tuck to pike. And then once pike has been achieved, you'll do an extra somersault, and so on and so forth. So it kind of just like resets each time. But you are right. Yeah, we use the harnesses. We have, we've got a lot of experience in our country on teaching kids and adults as well, new dives. And that comes from work within the gym as well, getting stronger. We do harness work in the dry land as well. So we've actually got the dry bouncy boards onto the crash mats, and we'll have a rig system where you've got a cylinder around your waist and then 2 ropes going up either side, and you've got a coach who pulls it up and down, which basically means that they can rotate you and you can practice what that feeling would be like. But yeah, and honestly, one of the good things we have actually as well is we've got like a big bubble system. So they put the bubbles on and it agitates the surface and creates froth almost. So when you go in, it's not like hitting still water. If you do go wrong, it's kind of frothy and bubbly, so it almost doesn't hurt quite as much. It still hurts a little bit, but it's a lot better than what it would be if you were just on flat water.
And what determines which discipline you go for? Because when the layman thinks of diving, you just think diving's diving, whereas I presume the set of skills at 3 meters are totally different to 10 meters, are totally different to a springboard.
Yeah, when you're younger, most people do both boards. Most people will grow up and they'll be doing the 1 meter, the 3 meter, and the platform. And then are usually around like adolescent stage, maybe around the age of 16 or so, when your body starts to transform, when you either start to go through growth spurts or you start to bulk out a little bit more, for example. That's when you can really tell which way someone's going to go. Now for springboard, it's more kind of suited to me is when your legs start getting bigger and stronger, because at the end of the day, springboard diving is just about how far you can push a board down so you can jump as high out of the board as possible. Obviously you've got the form elements to it and the entry into the water and everything, but the more height you get, the easier the dive is because you've got more time. And platform divers are kind of more strong around the upper body because you hit the water at 35 miles an hour from 10 meter. And all you've got, basically, your hands to guide you through the water. And you've got to have strong forearms, strong wrists, strong shoulders, strong everything, really. And diving is very similar. The skills are transferable, but I like to say it's kind of like my analogy is kind of like the 200 and the 400 meter running.
Okay.
Is that they're the thing you're running, but they are different. They're very, very, a 200 meter, a good 200 meter runner doesn't necessarily mean a good 400 meter runner, and vice versa. They're very similar. So the skills are the same. On 10 meter, they do 4.5 somersaults forwards. On 3 meter, we do 4.5 somersaults as well. However, they are different sports within themselves. A lot of people say that 10 meter is really hard to practice and very easy to compete. And a lot of people say that springboard is the exact opposite. Springboard is very easy to practice and very difficult to compete. Then that's because in springboard, there's the moving board that you've got to deal with along with nerves. And when things go slightly wrong on springboard, it can cause catastrophic events, really. However, on platform, because it's not moving and you're just taking off, it's a lot easier to get a more consistent takeoff and therefore hopefully a more consistent dive.
That makes total sense because you're essentially reducing the variables with the platform. So it's, I guess, if I turn up and compete in Russia or the North Pole, it's going to be very similar to competing in Ponds Forge, Sheffield versus the springboard. I mean, is there sort of stiffness variations around the world?
Yeah, you can. I mean, every board goes all the way there. The little thing that you put your foot on, the foot is called a fulcrum. little cream kind of coloured wheel.
Yes.
That adjusts the stiffness of the board. However, even when a board is on full flex, all the way back to 9, an experienced diver can tell that this board is slightly tighter, this board's slightly looser, this one gives a little bit more bounce back, this one stays down for longer. They make a mold, and then they make 3 boards out of the mold, and usually the second board is the best one. And it just depends, which board you get. Like at the Olympic Games, we'll go to Tokyo and we'll test each one, and we'll be like, okay, this one's too soft for me, or this one's too stiff, or this one's too this and that and this, almost like Goldilocks. And we'll choose our board that we like, and hopefully your synchro partner likes the board next to you as well.
And so with that, are you somebody who's meticulous when it comes to are you almost anal with detail, or are you just happily turn up and just do whatever you need to do?
I'd like to say I'm fairly flexible. There's obviously things that I do like. In an ideal world, I'd get to an important competition and have the ideal board for me. And it's really hard to describe because it's just through feel. It just feels good to me. And also the spatial awareness of the pool and stuff. Sometimes that can just feel a little bit off. But for me, I'd like to say I'm fairly flexible in the fact that I can adjust what I'm doing a little bit within some sort of a degree of difference. Really, there's obviously some things that I won't accept, but yeah, I mean, I'd like to say I'm fairly flexible with how I compete and how I train.
And mate, if we do go to Rio, obviously, which was an unbelievable success.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite questions to ask people is not what your favorite achievement is in sport, but actually your favorite perhaps 5 seconds. So for you, when you get gold or when you get silver, was it the moment you came out of the water that was that moment? Was it hugging your partner? Was it seeing your loved ones? Was it standing on the podium and seeing the national anthem? What was that 5 seconds where, if you could almost relive that, that would just be the ultimate?
I mean, it would be the moment that we realized that we'd won. That would definitely be the moment. We were diver number 5 and China were diver number 7. And we were already in the lead after our final dive. So we'd gone to number 1. So we knew we were at least number 2 because China still were the only people that could overtake us, and they were diver 7. So we watched diver 6 go. And I remember saying to Chris, I said to him before the Chinese went, I said, do you know what? I'd settle for Olympic silver. And I remember myself, I've never won an Olympic medal before. And I was saying, oh, I'd settle for Olympic silver. It's old, like it was just some sort of something that happens every day. And I couldn't believe what I was saying. And then we went, and our coach said, it's not enough. And we were waiting, like it felt like 5 minutes. It honestly, and it was probably no longer than 30 seconds. We were waiting for the scores to come up, but it felt like the longest period in the entire world. And when we saw them come up in rank 3, that means we had won. And instantly, I'd say this 5 seconds from seeing rank 3, I jumped into Chris's arms and I just cried and cried and cried because we'd achieved everything. We'd achieved the dream since we were 7 years old. All our hard work had paid off, and those I think it all came crashing down very quickly. That this has happened, and this is the best moment of my entire life.
And when you eventually get home, like normally people talk about, Matthew Pinton, in fact, talks really openly about the depression that he felt after an Olympic Games. Yeah. Is it different when you're living with the guy who's got the medal as well? Or is it surreal? What is it like walking back through the door?
Well, yeah, the initial part was great. I guess I wasn't really anyone before that. And nobody really knew who I was or what I did. But obviously, because it was one of Team GB's first gold medals at the Games, yeah. It was Dive's first ever gold medal. We became not superstars, but overnight people knew who we were, totally. Especially people in the area where we were living in Leeds. So going back was great fun. People knew who I was. They were asking for photos, and it was very, very fun. But at some point, Chris went on holiday, and Chris left where I was, and I was in the flat by myself. And I got I don't know. I mean, it was very hard to deal with when you're 21. You've achieved your lifelong dream. where do you go from there, first of all? But then also, because I wasn't used to people knowing who I was, I grew very uncomfortable with it very quickly. And I didn't like the fact that anymore that people could know who I was. And my mind started giving me anxiety around like, oh, this person's looking at me. Do they know who I am? Do they? And all I'm trying to do is get my bread and milk or whatever from the supermarket. I really struggled with that. And I think it was that point when I realized maybe I'm not cut out to be, you know, we had offers to go on I'm a Celeb and Strictly and stuff like that. And I was just thinking in my head, like, maybe I'm not quite yet cut out to be a celebrity. And I got a tremendous amount of social anxiety around going out and being out and about and people knowing who I was. And I don't know, it was really hard to deal with, and especially because Chris had gone on holiday and was enjoying himself.
Right.
I struggled because I was by myself and I was on my own, and I didn't want to turn to my family, because why would you want to turn to your family and say, Mum, I'm struggling when I've just won 2 Olympic medals? Like, it's really hard to do that, and really hard to talk about that. However, now I feel like I've changed massively because I've been through that, and now I feel like I can talk about it and I can express how I'm feeling to the people that need to know about it. But it was really hard to deal with. And, you know, I think that when I was 21 years old and I'd achieved that dream, we actually had the conversation with my psychologist and my coach. And I said, where do I go from here?
Right.
Do I quit? Because I've achieved what I wanted to achieve all my life. Do I continue? Do I stop? I don't know. It's really hard to know what to do. And, you know, we carried on, and I'm so glad we did. But yeah, after the Olympics, it was really hard, really, really difficult coming back down to earth and feeling different than I did before I went out.
And actually, it wasn't just a feeling, I guess, in your sort of post-Olympic journey. It's been unbelievably challenging the last 5 years in terms of you trying to become the diver that you once were and losing your skills and going through all that.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's been, honestly, there's been some mega hurdles that I've had to face since Rio. I had my first diving related surgery. And actually, this is one of my crowning moments of my career, actually, was I had this surgery that didn't heal as well as I was hoping for. And when I came back, it was taking a long time to heal up. And I remember it was just before the Commonwealth Games. We had a cut-off date, and we said, look, it was ankle surgery. We said, if you can't do the skills you need to do because of the ankle by this date, it's off, basically. Okay. And the Commonwealth Games was something after Glasgow, I won 2 gold and a silver there. I really wanted to try and go win 3 golds. It was really important to me. And I thought it was my best shot of getting 3 gold medals at a Commonwealth Games that I may ever have. And I remember one of the biggest hurdles that I overcame was that on the very final day, it was about 2 weeks before we flew out to Australia, I managed to do a backward jump, literally just standing on the board backwards and doing a backward jump for the first time in 5 months.
That was it, just doing that?
Yeah, honestly, because of the way that my ankles flex, I had so much pain in the front of my ankle. I couldn't do it. And me and my physio, we just taped my ankle up my leg, basically, so that my ankle wouldn't move. It physically couldn't get into that position that hurt me anymore. That was the idea. We thought, there's no way I can do it without the tape. There's no way I can even do a back jump normally. So we'll just basically make sure you can't squat into that position, okay, and you'll have to deal with it. So I had 2 weeks to prepare for the Commonwealth Games, and I came out with 3 gold medals. And that's one of the crowning moments of my career, because we were doing other skills in the pool and stuff, but I physically couldn't even jump off backwards 2 weeks before leaving. So that's one of my biggest, hurdles that I've overcome. However, even bigger was after 2019, when I almost failed my last dive, similar to the Olympic Games in 2012 at the World Championships, and I lost all cognitive ability and spatial awareness and had no idea where I was in the air. And that's so hard to describe to people who don't do gymnastics or diving, is the fear that strikes you when you are spinning through the air and you cannot even comprehend if you're up or down, left or right. You have no idea where you are. And then at some point you have to kick out. You can't just stay in your tuck shape. You kick out and it's in a completely wrong place, and you land flat on your back when you're expected to win your first World Championships. That was so hard to deal with. And again, I cried and cried, and It was really, really difficult. I still got a bronze medal because that's how well I was doing. I could almost fail my last dive and still get a medal. And that's almost harder in a way because I'd never won a world championship gold. And it was something that I've always wanted. It would complete my set of every single major title. And that was really hard to deal with. But the thing that was the hardest to deal with was afterwards, it kept happening. That same mistake, the same feeling of I don't know what I'm doing. And then, you know, the negative thoughts creep in, the anxiety around the skill, the fear of the actual skill itself, the doubt that you have in yourself, which I'd never experienced before. I've always been so confident in myself. Just everything that's tied around that skill, basically, and not wanting to come to training anymore. And, you know, I make progress. I start feeling like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm getting somewhere. And then all of a sudden it happens again. And there's only so many times that you can build yourself up and be crashed back down to square one again, that before maybe you think maybe this is maybe it's running its course, maybe this is the end. And then COVID happened. So then we had 5 months out of the pool. So then all I'm doing for 5 months is thinking about this skill, and I'm scared to do the Olympic Games because I'm like, well, if I do it again on the Olympic stage, you know, that may define who I am forever afterwards. An Olympic failure rather than an Olympic champion, which honestly, it played with my head so much. And I remember not being able to sleep because I'd be dreaming about it, and I'd have almost like night terrors thinking about the skill. I'd just dozing off, and I'd be doing the skill in my head and then bang awake.
Oh, wow.
It was so hard. And I didn't want to talk to anyone about it for quite a while because I felt like I was accepting defeat if I talked about it. And I talked to my psychologist about it, and I talked to my coach about it, and it still kept going on. And that was the hardest thing, was I finally overcame talking about it, and it still decided, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. My body just wouldn't let me do it correctly. And it took me until the Europeans in 2021, about 2 months before the Olympic Games, when I did it again at competition. It took me until then to have a bit of an epiphany, a bit of a realization that maybe we're looking in the wrong direction, and maybe I just need to go back to basics again and really start from a clean slate. And we did that, and almost overnight it seemed to help. I got a little bit of confidence back, and I hadn't felt that confidence in quite a while. And it still happened at training, but it happened a lot less. Okay. And it only when I stopped concentrating on the things I needed to and started thinking about other things. So it started going really well. And I think, oh, I really want to do a really strong kick on this one. And I would only be thinking about a strong kick. I'd forget about the other things and it would go wrong. And it actually happened 8 days before I competed as well in the Olympic Games in Tokyo. But because of the lessons I'd learned, I realized it's not defining me right now. It doesn't define my training. This is just a lapse of concentration. And that's all it was. And we got back on the board. I'd calm myself down and it was fine. And then in the Olympic Games, it was one of my best dives. And that, overcoming that hurdle for 2 years of self-doubt, anxiety problems, confidence issues, fear of competing, just everything, overcoming that and having this medal around my neck now is I would say the crowning moment of my career to date.
It's quite remarkable that, and thank you for sharing it with me, is that we see you sat there with your Ben Sherman shirt on, looking amazing. You've got your medal, but you'd think bronze medal, that's the one that you probably go, like Steve Redgrave, for example. He's got 5 golds, 1 bronze. And he often says, no matter how much I shine that bronze, it doesn't turn into a gold. Whereas in terms of what that means, the context, the journey, actually, you can see why. Obviously, an Olympic gold medal is the dream, but your bronze signifies something more than just perhaps a flawless performance.
Yeah, you know, and I delete social media whilst I'm away on competitions, because I feel like people can say things in 1 second and it can ruin your entire day. And opinions and views are so much more easily seen now than they were 10, 15 years ago. But I had heard that some people, I shan't name any names, but I'd heard that some people had tweeted and said that, you know, if you don't get an Olympic gold, you're a loser, essentially, because
are we talking about a famous presenter by any chance?
You are talking about that person,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's something I don't agree with, because I'd also seen that they'd said, no one dreams of Olympic bronze. But when I was growing up, because the only medal really in my lifetime that had been won in diving was a silver, all I ever dreamed about was being an Olympic medalist. When I was 10 years old, I didn't really care about the colour. And obviously, like, if I could fine tune that dream, of course, every medal that I would win and every medal I'd ever dreamed of would be a gold. However, when I was growing up as a kid, the gold wasn't the thing that spurred me on. It was the idea of making the Olympic Games and also potentially being an Olympic medalist. So that's something I don't agree with anyway. However, you are right. This bronze, I have won gold medals in my career, but the bronze, it doesn't really matter about the color. It's about the journey, and it's about what you overcome as an athlete potentially. For some people, competing is super easy and they're just so natural at it. And for me, it's always been something that I've had to struggle and learn with. And almost every competition that I've done, my first version of that competition has been terrible. In 2010 at the Commonwealth Games in Delhi, I hit my feet on the board. In 2012, my first Olympic Games, I failed a dive. In 2010, my first World Cup, I failed a dive as well. So it's almost like every single time I've never been natural at doing stuff like that. It's always taken time to build into the process that it is today. But yeah, you are right. The Olympic bronze, for me, it doesn't matter. It signifies something much greater than a flawless performance and 6 perfect dives. It signifies to me that the journey that I have come, albeit very rocky and with many hurdles, has now almost been completed. And now it's time for a new chapter in my life. And hopefully I can learn a lot from Tokyo and use the lessons that I have been taught to move forward with my career and continue on the upward trajectory to hopefully get more medals. And it will be lovely for them to be gold as well. But I'll be happy with however I do, no matter what now.
Well, mate, also touching on what you're saying is, so that guy there, he's a Shakespearean agitator. It's his job
Mm-hmm.
to try and basically rile people up and get people kicking off. And who's an easier target than people working in Olympic amateur sports who are trying their best to do something? And for me, it's a total misinterpretation of what sport is if somebody thinks it's all about getting golds. Because my granddad lost his leg in the Second World War and he passed away 20 years ago now. We never saw anyone that was disabled that was celebrated. Just didn't happen. Fast forward to London 2012. I remember, and I'll admit this, I saw a group of people and they were basically laughing at somebody that was a dwarf. And I was ready because I immediately thought of my granddad. I saw red and I thought, I'm just going to go apoplectic. And I actually jogged into this group of people. And then I realized as I was getting closer, they were laughing because they were nervous, and they were nervous because they couldn't believe they were meeting a Paralympic gold medalist. And it actually made me emotional. I actually had to turn away because tears were coming down my face, because I thought, we've come that far that it's gone from you'd look at somebody like that and potentially try and make fun of them to now we're celebrating and in awe of them. I think that's the power of sport. The power of sport can be that you take someone like Anthony Joshua, who had a tag around his ankle, who was essentially a life of criminality ahead of him, who's now a multi-millionaire, internationally known, revered, a millionaire, and that's all come through discipline of sport. Now, admittedly, he did get gold, but for someone to think that the sole objective of sport is gold is just to miss the whole thing, because winning is a part of it, and winning is what ultimately memories that will go into stay with me for a lifetime. Michael Johnson, Linford Christie, Sally Gunnell. But actually, to me, it's also about journeys. To me, it's about overcoming. To me, it's about what it represents. And actually, a bronze medal, you're now sharing a story which, if you hadn't overcome those things, you'd be Jack, the amazing diver. Now you're Jack, who's overcome, is relatable, and who someone might look to and say, well, hang on, if Jack's overcome this mental weakness, as it were, maybe I can as well. Maybe I can get over this sense of depression or whatever it might be. And that, to me, is so much more than an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah. I mean, that was very well put. I think that there's such an emphasis on winning by quite a few people, but there's 30 people in a diving competition, and there's not just one winner and 29 losers. Like, that is just the wrong way to put it. I've got a lot of friends within the sport and other sports as well that they may never get onto the medal podium. However, that doesn't make them a loser. They go out there and they try their best every single time. And for them, stringing 6 dives together, of which they can be proud of, is a huge victory within itself. And just making an Olympic Games for some people is, and for me as well, people making an Olympic Games is a victory. And the goals that we set ourselves along our careers and achieving those goals, they're victories as well. And I think that's what's beautiful about sport, is that you can set small little goals that are achievable, and they create the endorphins around victory and being triumphant. And there's just some amazing athletes, like you said, Anthony Joshua, and he recently has lost a fight, and that is okay, because he's in himself. He took the loss and he learned from it, and he came back even stronger. And losing is a part of winning, and losing is a part of sport. And some of our greatest sporting heroes in our country and around the world have had major disappointments as well. And that's all part of sport. If the person that you expect to win always wins, what's the point? Boring. And, but we do have triumphant people overcoming huge amounts of adversity and amounts of, I don't know, problems and everything, issues personally, mentally, physically, albeit, problems with the law, problems with family, problems with disability, problems with, like previously in years back, problems with race, problems with gender, all those things that people overcome to become an Olympian, to be a World Cup finalist in football, or anything like that. People overcome it, and that's what's so powerful about sport, is that no matter what you do, who you are, you can be a victor, you can be triumphant, and you can be a champion.
Right, Jack, everyone's going to be thinking this, who listens to this. When are you going to be on TV? Either as a pundit, as a presenter, as a broadcaster, because mate, you're so articulate, and that normally, especially in an individual sport where you're ultimately trying to overcome every element of your body, which says, I'm 10 meters up, I should probably not hurtle myself off this concrete structure. So what do you think you want to do that long term?
Honestly, that would be something I would adore to do. I think that it's something I'd love to explore now. I feel like I've done 3 Olympic Games. Paris coming up in 2024, 3 years time. I'm definitely trying for that one. But I am very aware that I am coming towards the end of my career. At the grand age of 26, I am the older side now. I feel like I used to love the phrase, Drake said it, what was it? He said, I'm the rookie and the vet. Right. Which for me really struck with me for quite a while when I was younger, because I'd been around the scene for so long. I was still young, I was still a bit of a rookie, but I'd been around for so long that I was a veteran diver at the same time. Now I'm just a veteran and a veteran. That's it. I see the youth coming up, and it scares me, but I'm really excited for that. And I think that hopefully I can make Paris, and hopefully maybe even LA. But I think that that's definitely something I'd love to explore and try and find an avenue to be a part of, because I'd love to be able to share my story. But also, I love talking. Who am I kidding? I enjoy talking. I enjoy sport, and it would be something that I would love to do.
Would you do anything like I'm a Celeb, or Strictly, or now that you're in a different headspace?
Yeah, I mean, I had the full offer for I'm a Celebrity in 2016. And I was the number 1 choice to go on, and I turned it down because I wasn't there mentally. I wasn't ready for that, and I knew that my life would change overnight, basically, and I just wasn't ready for that. And I was scared, and I didn't have the confidence in myself. I also didn't think of myself as a celebrity either. I kind of had this weird idea that I was just a regular guy doing my job. I didn't think of myself as I'm a celebrity. I see all the people that go on. I know 99% of them all the time. And I just don't think I fit into that category. And to be honest with you, still not sure if I even do. However, if it came to me now, I'd like to think that I would take that opportunity and I would try to dive into something new and something scary. And to be honest with you, fear was the only thing that was holding me back last time because, I think Sam Quek was the person that ended up going on in 2016 over me. And she's done fantastically and she's made a career, and I'm sure that she was nervous going onto it as well. However, I look at her and she's done a fantastic job and really made something of herself and made a career after becoming an Olympic gold medalist. So yeah, that's something I'd love to explore in the future as well. But, right now I'm just chilling at home, enjoying myself and thinking about Paris as well.
And what's next for you in terms of comp wise?
Next up is we've got a really, really good opportunity. We have Birmingham Commonwealth Games next year,
Yes.
Which is home Commonwealth Games. So hopefully COVID restrictions are lifted and, everything's going to be okay. And I'm hoping that the English, Scottish, Welsh, Northern Ireland public will all get behind their respective teams. It's really interesting at Commonwealth Games. We don't compete as Team GB. We compete as the 4 different home nations, which is strange. But it's really, really nice. It means more athletes get the opportunity to compete as well. Yeah. And it means that, because obviously in the Olympic Games, there's just 2 people per event. In the Commonwealth Games, there's 3. But also you can have Scottish athletes diving, Welsh athletes diving. So there's loads of people participating, which is really, really good fun. So that's the biggest one probably next year. We also have the World Championships as well, which is, I guess in terms of the sport, in terms of funding, the most important. But yeah, we've got quite a few big bits. But honestly, with everything going on right now in COVID and stuff, I think schedules are a little bit iffy. And we'll just see what happens, because obviously right now we all know as a nation, we all know as the world, that things can change overnight. So yeah, just preparing for that and keeping myself to myself at the moment and just enjoying friends and family time, really.
Well, Jack, fingers crossed, it would be an incredible completion to your set if you were able to do the business at the Worlds, although we kind of said that it's not all about golds. And then
yeah,
I'm from the West Mids. Seeing you dive at the Commonwealth Games would be special. So, mate, thank you so much for your time, and watch this space, because I think your journey, even after you retire, is going to go like that. So thank you very much, dude.
Thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it.
Naked bacon. One day, all bacon will be made this way.